Thanks very much. That's the best introduction I've had in some time. Delighted to be here, delighted and very honored by the award. I will give you a talk that's a little bit different in perspective. I was thinking of going back through my career, and I thought, well, actually, with students, that's going to be pretty boring. So I thought, actually, I would put you in perspective of where the research is going, where we think all of this is going to get. But first, I want to make public disclosures to make sure you're aware that there are some obvious biases in our research. At the University of California, Davis, we have an institute, and that gets funding from a variety of sources. And so we obviously have those particular conflicts of interest. We've also launched a couple of companies, and just so you know, those do, in technical terms, pose conflicts. I also, my wife is a lactation consultant. If you're going to be a scientist, the number one ingredient you're going to need for success and survival is a very tolerant partner, and she's extremely tolerant. And she keeps, in essence, us very focused on the whole process of lactation and breastfeeding. Also, I have two daughters. Oldest daughter is actually a pediatrician. She's finishing her neonatology at Seattle Children's. When I start thinking about babies, she keeps me on track. And finally, youngest daughter is in the theater in New York City, and every time I show her a picture, I have to pay her, so clearly I am the most conflicted person in the room. So now I'm going to take you through the perspective that we have at our institute, and to a certain extent, explain it from a chemical view, because I'm a chemist. This is the ACS meeting, but I do want to tell you why, for many of you, your future really is, in large part, going to be dictated by chemistry, even if you don't become a chemist. So, the most successful science in the 20th century, the science that transformed the human condition in virtually every way imaginable, was chemistry. Chemistry was the most successful science for discovering, building knowledge of the world around us, and it was the most successful science in bringing that knowledge to practice. And the reason why is basically the core principle of chemistry. Chemistry is a reductionist science. As the image on the right implies, what chemistry does takes things apart and studies them as individual elements. And that purity makes it possible to understand things, because you can understand purified materials. And you put them back together and understand them as increasingly complex interactions, but that wonderful principle of taking things apart, understanding them as purified substances, that allows you to build a knowledge of the world. But that also is the reason why you can industrialize chemistry so quickly. The same technologies that we use in the lab to take things apart, we use industrially to take, in essence, the world apart, make it pure, and when it's pure, we can predict how it's going to behave. And it's that ability to predict behavior that allows you to industrialize. So the reason why we are all sitting on, watching, wearing chemistry in action is this magnificent principle of reductionist chemistry. And it has been applied to all sorts of aspects of the human condition. Of course, we'll emphasize food, and you all are quite young. You have the luxury of being born in the post-nutrient era. So taking things apart, one of the things that chemistry did early on is take food apart into chemicals. And instead of studying the effects of food, they studied the effects of chemicals. And that was a magnificent approach because it permitted what engineers call a fault model. Now, a fault model is if I have a complex apparatus system, take it apart, put it back together and leave something out. If that something is necessary, then the system fails. And that basic strategy was used for the chemicals in food. And with that strategy, scientists figured out every single essential nutrient. Every vitamin, every mineral, every amino acid and fatty acid is mature scientific knowledge. We know everything that you need to eat to grow, reproduce, and survive. That is a magnificent scientific achievement by any criteria. And the success of it is witnessed by these particular conditions. Vitamin deficiency diseases were endemic in the history of humans. And they were horrifying. And of course, no one knew what the causes of these diseases were. And they were, in essence, called by various names, associated with when they occurred. They seemed to occur randomly. Scurvy, it was typically referred to as associated with the winds that sailors experienced when they were taking long sea voyages, and that just coincidentally was when their vitamin C ran out. They thought it was associated with the wind. So people really had no idea what was causing it. Therefore, of course, they were terrified of them. And so young people of your age would typically every morning wake up, walk to the silvered glass, and check their throat to see, is there a disfiguring swelling coming along in my throat? Why? Because you'd see it in the street. You'd see people with goiters going by, and you were terrified of them. All the essential nutrient deficiency diseases are understood and almost completely eliminated in the modern world. So not only do you not get these diseases, you don't even think about them. I poll my large undergraduate class every year. How many of you know what a goiter looks like? They don't even know what a goiter is. So the magnificent success of chemistry is not just in eliminating the disease, but we've eliminated the fear of it. You are completely, in essence, free of the fear of all of these diseases. Magnificent success. So all the essential nutrients, vitamins, minerals are known as molecules, and we understand that it's the molecule that does it. It's not the food of their origin. So ascorbic acid is as effective as vitamin C, whether it comes from a lemon or a lime, a tomato, or a pill. So that reductionist chemistry permitted a magnificent understanding of essential nutrients in the diet. But how was that knowledge brought to practice? So, when a society accumulates knowledge, we can bring it to practice in one of two ways. One is you can educate the population. And we know how to do this. We have an entire K through 12 curriculum. We can put it into the curriculum. We teach students. We test them on it. We don't let them pass until they can show they know it. So we know how to put knowledge into a society. Alternatively, we can industrialize it. We can weave it into the environment around you so that you are actually not conscious of it, but it's doing what it's supposed to do. For essential nutrients, we did not educate the population as to where they come from. We did not put into the grade 5 curriculum, this is where iodine comes from. Here are the foods you need to get iodine. What was done? Iodized salt. Now that was a magnificent public health decision, because by industrializing, putting all of these essential nutrients into the food supply, you prevent diseases. And remember, you can get an essential nutrient deficiency disease at an age at which you're too young to be educated. So from a public health perspective, magnificent idea. But there's one necessary, in essence, component to that. Why don't I need to dose everyone specifically according to their size? Well, if you don't get enough of an essential nutrient, you have a deficiency, a disease, and you die. Everyone. If you get enough, then you're fine. But what if I give you more than you need? I give you twice as much vitamin C, 5 times as much, 10 times as much, 100 times as much vitamin C as you need. What happens? You just pee and poo out the excess. Biology is wonderfully regulated to recognize your requirements, and any excess you just eliminate. So what that makes possible, that biological realities, how do you make sure that everybody gets enough? You overdose everybody. And then the largest get what they need, and the smallest just get rid of the excess. Magnificent success. So what happened with the first half of the 20th century is all the nutrients were recognized, the deficiency diseases eliminated, the food supply nutrified, a wonderful, in essence, success story. And that should have been, in essence, the key to a very successful, healthy future for humans. Actually, it proliferated nutrified foods in the marketplace, and the value proposition of the, in essence, the branded product. So foods became dominated by this business model, individual packaged goods. And so you now familiar with most of this, and most of these iconic brand symbols, so you don't typically think of food except as individual foods. That's a business model, but not a biological reality. Very successful global industrialized food. We should be the healthiest people in history. Well, some are. And in some ways we are. So Jerry and Roger are playing the sports that they learned as children. They're both over 100. That's spectacular. So some people are enjoying spectacular health. But unfortunately, the majority of the population in the most affluent parts of the world are clearly not healthy. They're suffering from a variety of degenerative diseases, non-communicative diseases, and it's due to diet. So diet not only is a problem, it's causing disease. And so all this knowledge protecting us from essential nutrient deficiency diseases is not helping us with these, in essence, new kinds of diseases. So health needs to improve. We have got to find out, how do we feed people so they're overall healthy? Agriculture has embraced a quantity model, make more, make it cheap. That's been a spectacularly successful production model. We can make lots of agriculture, but we're not creating value. In fact, the agricultural enterprise is so, in essence, dominated by this production quantity model, there's not enough money in it to effectively pay the workers. So we have to find ways